It's interesting you say it that way because, when Trump created the Space Force, I mean, people laughed at that because it sounds silly. But in a way, he was doing is saying, organizationally, we need to handle space and certain space cyber stuff at a higher organizational level so it doesn't get buried down underneath the Air Force, right?
Yeah, it's all a statement of all that stuff. It's all a statement of the president's focus, his priorities, his values. And that's what, when people roll their eyes at how is the bureaucracy organized, it's really just a statement of what does our leadership care about. And, the Space Force is a great example of that. When we were at the National Security Council, we reorganized some of the directorates so that there was a China focus in other regional directorates. So there would be a director who is thinking about China in Europe, China in Latin America, China in different parts of the world. So these are all different ways that the government can express what it cares about, and it matters.
So I think I was right about the Ice Force.
Yeah.
Biden, I've got a great suggestion for you.
Let me play devil's advocate. I think it's clear the U.S. government does see China as a strategic competitor. But as you said, Antarctica is far away. It's resource intensive to go there. Does it make more sense to challenge the Chinese Communist Party in regional theaters that are easier to get to, like in the Indo-Pacific? Focus the energy and limited resources there instead of worrying about something that's difficult like Antarctica?
So it's an important question, and it gets to the larger strategic point of, one, what is worth expending effort on? Are there theaters that we should just cede to the Chinese? I know that there's a lot of discussion now about, the Chinese are going to suck us into just endless quagmires, and we're going to end up having to contest them in all these different theaters. Everywhere there's an OBOR project, we're going to get sucked into having some, fruitless counter OBOR effort. My sense is that's a bit of I think that's a bit of an exaggeration of what's required to be successful. Obviously prioritization is key. You can't be everywhere at once. We have to focus on the theaters that are most determinative for the long-term competition. So certainly the Taiwan Strait, the South China Sea. This is all, I think we all probably are in agreement on where are the most essential places. But the amount of resources that are required by the United States to compete with China, or at least to not allow them free rein, is relatively minimal. So my argument is the U.S. remains, by most metrics, I would say, all if not most metrics, the predominant power in the world, economically, militarily, culturally, diplomatically. We have the ability, if we have the will, we have the underlying capability to do simple things like build icebreakers, like provide for C-130s that can land on the ice, like make sure that we're doing the type of alliance and partnership management so that we're burden sharing with the Aussies and the Kiwis. So they're helping us do inspections of bases in Antarctica, and we're upholding one of the most important and successful international treaty regimes of the last 50, 60 years. These are kind of blocking and tackling basic global management skills that we have no reason to just concede. So I take your point that we have to be prioritizing things like, in my view, prioritizing the balance in the Taiwan Strait, making sure that the South China Sea, we're managing that situation as best we can. But I would also argue that something like Antarctica is a bit of canary in the coal mine for how we're going to handle competition more broadly. And it doesn't take some sort of national mobilization to make sure that we can build some icebreakers, we can do inspections per our treaty commitments, and we can help our partners, keep our bases supplied. That's all kind of, to me, that's just basic good governance, superpower responsibility 101.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Alex. For anyone watching who would like to know more about China's role in Antarctica, where should they go, or where can they see more from your writings?
Yeah, so I've written about this in the national interest. I'm working on a larger piece on the topic. I would also encourage anyone who's really interested in this to read Professor Anne-Marie Brady's amazing book, China as a polar power, which covers both the North Pole and the South Pole. And she's written some larger scholarly journal articles on it as well. So I think there's a lot of material out there. And one of the things Anne-Marie does is she actually reads Chinese language source material, translates it, and gives the reader a sense of how the Chinese are talking about Antarctica, which has really informed my view of the challenge to look at their own words on the topic.
I wish we would look at their own words more often. Thank you very much, Alex. Take care. This was great talking to you about this.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Wow. So what I'm taking from this is U.S.-China policy and me at parties has a lot in common.
What do you mean, Chris?
Trouble breaking the ice.
Oh. How long did it take you to come up with that one?
Oh, I've been sitting on it the entire podcast.
Okay. Amazing it hasn't melted.
What?
You're breaking the ice joke.
That was pretty good.
It was a hit. I was also, desperately trying to hold back all the pop culture references.
Including Evangelion.
There's
which by the way is like 30 years old, so it's not really a pop culture reference.
The new movie just came out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just came out on Amazon. It's fresh.
Sure. Okay.
Also, the second Stargate is in Antarctica. Stephen King's It, all the Lovecraftian horrors that exist in Antarctica, the Mountains of Madness. A lot happens in Antarctica.
I mean, it's a huge place, and I don't know exactly how many like square miles, but like it's giant, and not just on a map where it looks super big, but if you look at like a globe, you can see it's very substantial.
You could fit in the entire New York City inside of Antarctica.
You could fit so many New York states. It's unbelievable. Like, just think like the amount of time it takes to fly across the United States, like the continental United States. It's probably not that different for Antarctica. Like, that's how much space is in between stuff.
Are you sure Antarctica's not bigger?
It might be. It's also, technically it's also an archipelago.
Oh, true.
If you remove the ice,
ice,
it's a bunch of islands. But there's big land masses too. And some of the land masses are buried under a kilometer of ice. So that's like...
What's underneath the ice?
Obviously Lovecraftian horrors.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the matter, Shelley?
Nothing. Are we going to actually talk about Antarctica, or we're just going to...
Oh, we are talking. We've been talking about it this whole time, Shelley.
Thank you. What happens if China gets to that second Stargate?
Is that more dangerous than the Russians having it?
Yeah, probably. Because then they'll just colonize other worlds. They will be the Goa'uld.
I'm looking forward to seeing the Chinese reboot of Stargate.
Well, they will liberate it'll be the same thing. They're liberating all these worlds from Goa'uld feudalism.
What I think, right now it's very hard to get to Antarctica. And so I can understand the lack of resources going towards it. But we've seen how over the last, 50 years, it's gotten easier and easier to get everywhere, right? Like the amount of time it takes to get from New York to Tokyo.
Well, there are some very specific differences to Antarctica.
No. I get that. But it would have been much harder for China, for example, to militarize Fiery Cross Reef in the South China Sea 50 years ago compared to the amount of technology, the amount of shipping, the amount of just sheer stuff you could put on a boat, the drilling and building technology. All of this has improved so much that it makes every part of the globe more accessible. And so I can imagine that 5 decades from now, should technology continue to progress at the insane rate it has been, it'll be easy to do stuff anywhere. And, once China has established its claims, as they're trying to do now, and with the whole Madrid Treaty expires at the end of 2048 or whatever, by the time that happens, the technology will already be in a place where China can do an unbelievable amount of stuff. And then there's going to be just not much we can do about it because they'll have, planted their flag, so to speak.